Hello, welcome. My name is Dan Meyer. I'm the editor-in-chief of RCR Wireless News, and joining me today is Sanjeev Mervana, who is Senior Director of Products and Solution Marketing and Service Provider Routing and Software at Cisco, perhaps the longest title I've ever had to read off. But hey, Sanjeev, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan, and thanks for the opportunity.
Great, great. So, well, obviously, the topic for today is kind of going to look at virtualization and the importance, the growing importance, I should say, of virtualization for the telecom space and more specifically the wireless space. It does seem like virtualization, whether it's NFV or other variations, has been perhaps the hottest topic of the first half of 2014. And obviously, Cisco's been at the forefront of a lot of that. So, hoping to get from you guys some insight there on that topic. So, maybe start off with, I guess, maybe a general overview from Cisco. Kind of on the view of of the growth of mobile data services. Obviously, Cisco every year comes out with a new report, kind of on the growth of data traffic. So perhaps get from you initially just your Cisco's view of the growth of mobile data traffic.
Yeah, definitely, Dan. And I think we just released our Visual Network Index report very recently. And if you look at just the mobile data traffic growth, I mean, we're going to see an exponential growth on that data traffic. We are talking about at least by 2018, we're talking about at least 61% growth in what we are seeing in 2013, 2014. And if for people who are listening to this, it amounts to equivalent of 190 exabytes annually. And that, just like you and me, doing this video clip and doing 4 video clips daily or for every person, it's amazing the amount of traffic growth you're going to see in the mobile space. So not only that, I mean, obviously there are a lot of drivers which is causing that growth, and video is going to be the key driver for that, as well as the number of devices, and mobility is becoming very ubiquitous now. So as more and more people start using it, a lot of applications. And you're going to see a tremendous growth in the mobile space itself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just so people know too, I'm not streaming this over my own mobile connection. I am using a wider internet connection, so I'm not contributing any to that traffic. So if someone else is having issues, it's not my fault. But anyway, so well, I guess looking at this, and obviously this demand and this growth, when you look at it, you take a step back and look at it, it just seems so. I mean, how does a carrier overcome, or how does the industry overcome this? Because I mean, that growth is just astronomical. I mean, just to think of this increased traffic, but obviously there are lots of challenges in the way for carriers. And I guess when you look at this at the industry being able to perhaps meet this challenge, what do you see as being maybe the bigger challenges in the way of carriers to be able to handle this increased data traffic?
Yeah, I think as much as it provides a challenge, it's also an opportunity for the carriers, if you look at it from that perspective, because that allows them to monetize all that growth, what they are seeing. And obviously, the challenge is from their perspective is how can they meet these demands of massive growth? So they need to look at how they're building their mobile networks today, because first and foremost, right, I mean, there's a limited spectrum available. And the cost per bit to delivering a mobile data or mobile traffic, it's quite high. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go towards delivering this kind of a video, that cost needs to come down. The way they are building their macro networks, if they increase their capacity per cell area, that means the coverage within that cell area goes down. So they have to start looking into things like small cells. They start looking into the alternative, within the inside the home technology like Wi-Fi and so forth as part of their broader plan on how they can actually cater for this kind of exponential growth. So obviously there's a lot of plans, and from our perspective, Cisco is helping our customer base quite heavily in ensuring that they are able to meet this growth with a much optimized network aspect, so that they can lower their cost bit as they're offering those mobile data traffic.
Yeah, and obviously it does seem like virtualization is perhaps that next step. I mean, I know traditionally wireless carriers have been very much a hardware-centric type of operation where they're very familiar with cell sites and small cells and the tangible things that they can feel and throw out there. But it does seem like as we're looking to meet this demand, that it's going to have to become more of a software issue. And obviously virtualization seems to be kind of that next step, or a way to at least to help carriers meet that demand. I guess what impact do you see virtualization having on the carriers to be able to meet this demand for this data traffic growth.
Yeah, virtualization is a very important aspect of their strategy as they evolve for this business transformation. If I take a step back,
Mm-hmm.
right, obviously we're talking about the traffic growth. We're also talking about the change in the provider's business model itself, right? There is one aspect of the traffic growth, there is another aspect of their business is transforming. So if you think about it, the carriers have to use various different tools in their uh, 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 what they have in their hand to actually go and meet those needs. So first and foremost, obviously, they want to lower their cost. So it's all about optimization. I was talking about how they can go and build their networks. It's all about cost saving and making sure that they're not building many parallel or siloed networks, what they have today, and actually converge multiple networks. That helps them lower the cost and bring in operational simplicity of rather than managing multiple networks, they start managing lower elements within the networks itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, as they go towards the transformation of business models, is all about monetizing this growth, right? They have to, the models what they have today on this traffic growth, that business model cannot sustain as they go towards this broad traffic growth. They have to go towards higher value add services. They have to start looking into how they can go beyond the connectivity aspect and how can they start roll out new services in a much faster speed than what they are used to today. And that's where virtualization comes into the picture. It's all about helping the service provider become more agile. So bringing at a speed much faster than what they are used to today. So virtualization plays a key role not only in going after the markets what they have not even addressed today, but it also allows them to speed up the services what they're offering today. In typical fashion, some of the services what they're offering, be it for their consumer services or be it for enterprise side of the house, it takes them months to start rolling out new services. They cannot become competitive into that fashion. So what virtualization allows them to do is basically, along with their existing infrastructure and how they're offering the services, it gives them a means to transform and it gives them a means to get onto the journey of offering the services at a much faster web speed level. That's where virtualization would help them.
Does it seem like operators are embracing the virtualization movement? Obviously, it is somewhat new. I mean, obviously, you guys have been working in the space for a while, so perhaps not new to you guys. But does it seem like the operators are embracing this move towards virtualization? Are they obviously they're aware of it, but obviously, with over-the-top players coming on board in different ways, that they're seeing competition come from different points of view now. Does it seem like operators are becoming more aware of this and are open to embracing perhaps this new move towards virtualization?
Yeah, I think if you look, most of the operators we have talked to, they're pretty much are going to adopt virtualization in one fashion or the other, right? Like I was mentioning earlier, virtualization becomes part of the strategy. It is not just the strategy, right? Because virtualization is helping them achieve their end business outcome. So what they are looking at is saying, hey, I want to go and able to monetize this huge traffic growth. That's where virtualization can help them. Which area? So for example, we have been working with certain operators with our virtualized packet core as an example, which works in conjunction with their physical infrastructure so that it can allow them to go and offer different data packages which is not economical with their current business model. So it allows them to have a newer data models or newer traffic rates which they can offer for machine-to-machine kind of an environment. So that's how they would be looking at virtualization. The other aspect I was talking about is the speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Offering new sets of services today, if you look at the different sets of services and the amount of changes which users like you and me are demanding, right? That would require them to change those services dynamically much faster. Think about the number of applications. So what they have to create an environment where they can add in services and remove services at will without dedicating resources permanent, because that resources drives towards their, obviously added capital expenditure, as well as they have to start spending more on managing and operating those resources. Instead, they're looking at virtualized environments so that they can elastically scale up or scale down those resources when they're needed and when the users demand. Because I think the personalization and the customization of users like you and me is going to completely change the way they're offering services.
Yeah, and obviously it seems like this dynamic ability to dynamically change or manage network traffic and network load, that does seem to kind of play into also the capex, opex savings that people always talk about when it comes to virtualization. And obviously, operating expenses is probably it seems like that's the area where perhaps will be the most savings down the road will be the ability to kind of save on the opex side. But obviously, there's capex savings available as well if carriers can perhaps put off putting up a new cell site, for instance, if they can use software to kind of handle different traffic loads. So it does seem like that this impact on capex and opex is a pretty important aspect of this as well.
Indeed, and in fact, there is, most of the operators, they realize if you look at their, obviously capital expenditure is there as they are building this network infrastructure, but their bigger pain point is operating those elements what they have within the network itself, right? Whether it in case of mobile, whether it is their micro radios, how they are actually fine-tuning the signals, how they are making use of their spectrum, how they leverage new technologies like self-organizing networks and so forth. That's where they are focusing on leveraging technologies like virtualization and software elements, which can help them reduce their operational cost itself, which is growing at a massive 11% a year. I mean, if you think about it, versus the capex. Capex is flat, even if what they're talking about, but from an opex perspective, it's a massive expenditure based on how they have built the networks, and that's where they are looking at how they can reduce that operational expense and complexity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, if you can, dynamically change a network's operations or cell sites operations by, a few keystrokes as opposed to rolling a truck out to go handle that. Obviously, the savings there is astronomical, or it's a big savings there, obviously, for carriers to be able to do it that way instead.
And once they have those pieces in play of allowing you to manage your resources and orchestrate your resources automatically, they actually get into the mode of monetizing it. And that's what many of the operators are actually doing, whether it is in the sporting stadiums or live events. Even this broadcast, we could actually start joining based on the bandwidth. You could have multiple users joining in and start adjusting the bandwidth and based on what you are sharing. So there are a lot of applications that providers can get into, which they are unable to do today as they get into the next business transformation. And virtualization would play a key role as they start service chaining across multiple functions they are offering today.
Gotcha. Well, now obviously we are perhaps a bit early in the game when it comes to carriers rolling out virtualization. I guess maybe looking down the road, what kind of time frame do you see where carriers will become, I guess, more aggressive in rolling out virtualization? I mean, do you see it as a 5-year time frame, 10-year time frame, 1-year time frame even? I mean, how do you see the future of virtualization, NFV, different types of technologies like that? I guess actually being deployed commercially by operators.
Yeah, I think you will find that there are different roadmaps where different operators are today, right? Like I said, most of them are into the mode of trialing it out, looking at which specific problem or use case. It's purely driven by specific pain point area and a use case they want to go after. And in the carrier's environment, whether it is the aspect of going after a broader market segment, let's say we talk about Internet of Everything and going after how machine to machine gets connected. That's one specific use case. Many of the mobile operators are looking at that. How can they offer different business model out there? So that's one area where they're trialing it out, and you will start seeing the rollouts. In some places, it is already starting to have the pilots. People are actually using that. And then in some cases, the traditional data models, it may take a bit longer. So you can say that the actual adoption of NFV is already happening right now in certain use cases already.
Yeah, and it's an interesting aspect too, right? I mean, the software aspect of it does allow operators to really kind of pick and choose how they want to roll this out. I mean, it's not something that has to be just rolled out across a whole network at one time. I mean, like you said, there are different use cases or different pain points that carriers are looking to address in the short term, where they're going to start trialing these services, and then as they get more comfortable with it, obviously they can expand it from that point there. But that's kind of what it seems like one of the benefits of the software-based solutions is that it can be one of those things that is gradually rolled out, and carriers can kind of pick where they want to roll out these services.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the key elements now is, with the help of software and virtualization, they can try out new services much quicker. And if they find, because the amount of investment they would need to go and make, and they would need to start roll out, let's say if the service take rate is not there, they can easily take those out and use the same resources for offering new services. This is where the dynamic nature, what the carriers can start experimenting and moving quickly. That's what is the promise of virtualization, which allows them to do, which they were not able to do earlier. So I think that's very attracting for them in bringing and ensuring that, hey, I have a model which I can go about and start making money immediately, rather than me spending 18 months, 24 months piloting it and creating. So they can start offering new services much faster.
Yeah, no, that almost follows kind of the web-based model, where a lot of web-based companies, for instance, are able to do that. They're able to trial stuff for a while. If it works, great. If it doesn't, they just stop using it, and it's a very quick, easy type of process for them to do those things.
And the upside for the operators, if you think about it, right? They already have their existing business model of what they're offering based on their assets, right? This gives them an additional opportunity to go after the new markets which they haven't even tapped into, right? Because this makes them even a differentiated ability as they start rolling out maybe new mobile-based application out of cloud. Or they can start doing multiple things as they start offering these new services. There's a lot of B2B model which could even materialize, whether it is things like sponsored data, what we have been talking about, kind of a thing. It makes it very real. Or I just mentioned about the aspect of Internet of Everything, or IoT aspect. So it becomes very, very real.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Well, again, like you said, it's definitely one of the nice options that for carriers to have in their wardrobe, in their toolbox there to use. So obviously we'll see how this plays out going forward. But hey, Sanjeev, we definitely appreciate the time and insights today. Thanks so much for the information.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
All right, talk again soon. Thanks.
Thanks.